Today's webinar on raising the bar for a safer and stronger pharmaceutical supply chain. My name is Yvonne, and I'm the head of standards for TAPA APAC. And for today's webinar, we are very privileged to have with me a great panel of experts who will be sharing their insights on the current and the foreseeable future risks in the pharma industry. They will also be sharing with us the practical strategies and the value of adopting a tailored industry-specific standard for every organization that is in the pharma ecosystem. And also this session is also a very proud milestone announcement of TAPA APAC's launch of the Pharmaceutical Facilities Security Requirements Standards, which in short we call it the PFSR, and the introduction of a new vehicle class audit, vehicle type class audit certification for temperature control trucks. And these initiatives are one of the key standards development for TAPA APAC this year, and they are designed to specifically enhance security, resilience, and operational excellence in the pharmaceutical supply chain. Now, without further ado, let me just introduce first the speakers for today's webinar. So, yep, today we have a very good display here. So we have Dr. Amarpreet Singh. He has joined TAPA APAC as a board member, and he is currently now leading the standards committee. And he, by professional, is a country security manager at Johnson Matthey and has hands-on experience securing high-value and temperature-sensitive cargo in APAC. And next on, allow me to introduce Mr. Aaron Cooper. He is the director of Global Risk Intelligence and Supply Chain Security at GSK. And he is a very seasoned supply chain risk and security expert. And today he will be bringing his global perspective on the pharma logistics security. Okay. And next on, we have Ms. Doreen Tan. She is the GTS manager at Intertech Testing Services Singapore. With her, she has a decade of experience under her belt doing certification, auditing, and practical implementation of supply chain security standards. And last but not least, we have also Dr. Shamsia bin Ali. He is the managing director at He's the managing director at Omnispheres and is a very well-recognized strategic HSE and security leader with extensive expertise also in risk governance, leadership coaching, and organization resilience. And currently, he's also a lecturer for safety and security topics in higher learning institutes and adult learning institutes in Singapore. Right, and then now to start the ball rolling, I would like to share some supply chain incidences, the data that's been captured in the TAPA's intelligence system, which we call TIST. So to our members, I think most of you will have already known we have this TIST system. So I urge all of you to use it frequently. If you need guidance in using the platform, please reach out to us. For those who have not, you can also reach out to us and see how you can get on board the utilization of the TIS system. But from the data that we can share, I'd like to highlight here. As you can see from our TIS system, our TIS system is actually a centralized resource of knowledge, and it captures all the criminal activities or the reports, okay, on the freight in transit or in storage. So, and this information and data is actually shared to all TAPA APAC members and also to the law enforcement agencies, such as in Singapore, we share it with the Singapore Customs. And so what it's actually used for is to help provide cargo crime intelligence that can help company make better decision to safeguard against criminal attacks and support your supply chain planning. So to come back to the data that I'm sharing here, as you can see that in the past 3 years, there is a captured of 188 incidences. Yes, and in particularly, you can see that theft. We have location incidents that happened en route, which means they are in probably a truck, and also in the facilities itself. So you can see in the last 3 years, this shows the top 5 most more happened location, and top 5 more operandus or operation method, modus operandi. Yeah. So, and theft was one of them. But coming back to the data sets on the left, you can see that year to date in 2025, there is already 41 incidences that has been reported. And why I stress by reported is these are the data, these are the incidents that members, and also we have also our team that goes around capturing data that has been published and broadcasted, and we input into the system so that all the members can have a collective database for them to see. You can see over the past 3 years, things have shifted a little bit. For example, for this year, we can see that a lot more is happening at the facilities itself. And with theft from the facility itself ranking really high at 20. So you may, based on quantity purpose, from a quantity perspective, it may seem that 188 and 41 may not be too much. But however, I just want to stress that even just one incident can have dire ripple consequences, and that consequences will at the end very highly likely impact end consumers like you and I. So without further ado, I would like to pass on the mic to Dr. Amarprit, who will
Thank
be
you very much.
sharing about TAPA APAC's roadmap for pharma security. Dr. Amarprit, there you go.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vani, for wonderful introduction and setting the tone for this webinar. So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, morning, evening, from the different time zones in the Asia Pacific. You all are joining us for this today's launch. I'll say it's an honor and privilege for me to be here on a very special occasion as we celebrate not only one, basically the 2 remarkable milestones in Asia Pacific. This year also marks the significance of our silver jubilee as in TAPA Asia Pacific across the globe. We are celebrating 25 years of leadership, collaboration, and innovation in supply chain security. So I'll say over the past quarter century, TAPA has grown from a very small association with a bold vision to a truly global community with 3 regional offices across EMEA, across Americas, and in the Asia Pacific. We are working together to protect supply chain around the globe. So here in Asia Pacific, I'm very proud. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So here in Asia Pacific, I'm very proud to say that we are we're the fastest growing TAPA community. The progress we have made so far, you can see the numbers, it speaks volumes. We have over 800 Asia Pacific memberships representing some of the most respected organizations in the industry. We have more than 2,200 TSR certified trucks, which keeps the cargo safe on our roads, and over 850 plus FSR certified sites securing critical facilities across the region, and an outstanding 2,000 plus trained and authorized auditors, which are helping raise standards across every link of the supply chain. But today is also about looking forward as we introduce a new milestone for the global security community, the launch of the pharmaceutical facilities security requirements standards. Next slide, please. Yeah. So for all our Tata Asia Pacific members, you know, you will get to leverage our global standards and applied structured framework and have their your staff trained and attained audit certification to enhance their operational resiliency and sustainability. So you tap into your you spoke about this beautiful tool which we have is about the intelligence system for the supply chain data, and join many more knowledge sharing activities which are happening across our network. Subscribe to this particular homepage, keep on getting notifications, and keep on taking all the leverages of the knowledge pieces we have in Tata Asia Pacific dashboards. Next slide, please. So as by adopting these TAPA standards, we are not reinventing the wheel again, So we are basically leveraging a structured framework that already enjoys a global recognition. So this basically gives our stakeholders confidence because the standard has been tested and proven across multiple regions. The certification process ensures that we are not only compliant but also aligned with the global best practices. So one of the strengths of the Tata TAPA standards is the scalability. So whether you are a small logistic operator or you are a global pharmaceutical manufacturer, the standards can be scaled to fit to your organizations. They also allow you flexibility, meaning that a company can enhance requirements where necessary to match their internal transportation security policies and budget realities. So this makes adoption more practical and sustainable. The standards also create alignment between manufacturers, the brand owners, and the logistic providers, including suppliers and the third party sellers. So by having a common minimum standards written into contractual agreements, we can remove the ambiguity and make sure that everyone is working on the same baseline. So this drives basically consistency and reduces weak links in the supply chain. So standards, they are not just about infrastructure or technology. They are also about the people. So TAPA standards provide a platform for upskilling the workforce. Training ensures teams understand risks, they follow the processes correctly, and can proactively prevent incidents. So this directly reduces losses and strengthens the supply chain resilience. And credibility is the key in our industries. So TAPA's blockchain-based certificates provides authenticity that cannot be tampered with. So this transparency builds trust, not only not just with the regulators and the insurers, but also between the partners in the supply chain who basically rely on proof of compliance. And one of the most powerful tools we have in TAPA is the TAPA's intelligence and incident database. So by analyzing when cargo crimes and disruptions occurs, company can make better data-driven decisions and on the route planning. This basically transforms security from being a reactive to a proactive, ensuring more resilient operations. And next slide, please. Yeah. So we have basically two categories of standards. One is global, which is developed collectively by our three regional offices. And we have then Asia Pacific specific standards created here in Asia Pacific with the help of our working groups and the industry experts. So far as the global standards are concerned, we all know that FSR, that is the facility security requirement, it sets up the minimum requirements for securing warehouses, covering processes, systems, surveillance, technologies, workforce, and obviously the management practices. We have TSR, which focuses on secure road transportation and in-transit storage with requirements for drivers, vehicle management, tracking systems, and monitoring. And the cyber security standards is our framework to protect systems and networks and data from cyber security threats that increasingly affect the supply chains. If we look after the other three standards, which are Asia Pacific specific standards, we have guarding security requirements, which ensures that guarding services at facilities meet defined standards for processes, workflow, workforce competency, and management oversight. Our risk assessment standard provides a structured framework for identifying and assessing both internal as well as the external risks, enabling the organizations to take the right mitigation measures. And the business continuity planning standard helps organization prepare for disruption, including business resilience and ensuring business continuity during the crisis. Yeah, next slide, please. So pharmaceutical supply chain are uniquely vulnerable because they're so high, stakes are so high with patients, their health and safety directly depends on the integrity of our operations. So globally, we continue to see major challenges. Counterfeit medicines remain one of the biggest risks, not only threatening lives but also damaging the brand reputation. So cargo thefts and pilferage are persistent issues in the transit, and increasingly the cyber risks, they are also coming into play as more of the supply chain becoming digitized. Now let's not forget climate disruptions, which are also impacting storage and transportation conditions for the temperature sensitive products, so which we are going to cover in the later part of the session today. So now zooming into the Asia Pacific region, so we see additional gaps. Security standards are mostly uneven. Some countries have very robust security frameworks, while others have very limited controls. So regulations are often fragmented with no consistency across borders, and the enforcement can vary dramatically. So the impact of these weaknesses is significant. The risks to the patient's safety, erosion of trust in brands and the distributors, and ultimately the higher cost for the manufacturers and the logistic providers in the healthcare system. So that is why this is why a harmonized, robust, and sector-specific framework is so critical for the Asia Pacific as we move forward. Yeah, next slide, please. So when developing this standard, we didn't do this in the isolation. We have a working group with experts and specialists across pharma ecosystem, from manufacturers to logistic providers, from insurers to the regulators. Through these working groups, we identified the most pressing pain points in the supply chain. For example, there are vulnerabilities in the storage facilities, gaps in the transport security, and concerns around the data integrity. So these are real world issues that impact both safety and business continuity. So that is why this is developed by the industry for the industry. It is practical, it is relevant, and it is implementable. And as I just quoted, we didn't start it from the scratch. We just leveraged what we had so far in our database, and that has been proven globally, the FSR. That is the foundation. So that framework has already proven itself in protecting high value assets across the industry. So what we did was tailor it to the specifically for the pharmaceutical facilities, where the risks such as product integrity, the counterfeit threats, and the patient safety, they are at stake. So one of the most unique aspects of the pharma supply chain is the need for the strict environmental controls. The PFSR basically acknowledges this with the introduction of the requirements for the temperature controlled trucks. This ensures that while we secure our supply chain, and we are also maintaining the integrity of temperature sensitive medicines, which remains a critical factor for the patient's safety. So the result is a framework which balances the practicality with the rigor. It's strong enough to address critical risks, yet flexible enough to adopt widely across different markets and the facility sizes. So that balances it. It makes this standard both credible and achievable for all of you. Next slide, please. And so, reason why an auditable, why a sector specific framework is so important. Firstly, it gives us clear and measurable requirements for both facilities and logistics providers. So there are no gray areas. Companies know exactly what is expected and can be benchmarked against themselves to a common yardstick. The second one is about the structured audit process, which provides credibility. It is not just about self-claimed compliance. It's verified by a recognized body. That's why that's what gives the framework a global recognition and acceptance. The third one is about the framework, which is tailored specifically for the pharma sector. Unlike generic supply chain standards, it addresses pharma's unique risks, which we have discussed. And finally, by adopting a standard which is auditable and sector specific, which builds a trust with the regulators, with the insurers, and with the brand owners. So this is the foundation of which TAPA APAC is building for raising the bar in the pharma supply chain security. Next slide, please. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we look ahead, it's clear that pharma security requirements will only become stricter. Regulators worldwide are tightening controls, and we need to prepare Asia Pacific for today for what's coming tomorrow. So that's why we are already seeing stronger oversight from authorities like FDA, EMA, and WHO is pushing us for higher global consistency. So this means companies that can act early will avoid costly last-minute compliance issues. Asia Pacific is a diverse region with countries with different regulations. So this framework is a common foundation that helps manufacturers, logistic providers, and distributors raise their security levels in a structured way. And I'm very cautious when I talk about these organizations like FDA, EMA, and this framework does not replace WHO, does not replace FDA, does not replace EMA requirements. Instead, it acts as a bridge aligning the Asia Pacific practices with these global standards. And ultimately, this is all about the reputation and competitiveness. By embracing an auditable sector-driven standard, now Asia Pacific strengthens its position as a reliable global hub in pharma manufacturing and distributions. So adopting this framework isn't all about the compliance. It's about future proofing the Asia Pacific role in the global pharmaceutical supply chain networks. Yep. So that's all from my side. I'll hand over to Yoni for the next part of the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amarpreet, for setting the stage and telling everyone and sharing with everyone why TAPA APAC is doing what we are doing. And so right now we will move on to having Aaron Cooper to share with us. Aaron himself facing on the front line of the pharmaceutical industry, right? Every day facing in and out all the issues. And so Aaron, over to you.
Thanks, Yvonne, and thanks, Dr. Amarpreet. An excellent start to the webinar. I'm very excited and privileged to be invited back to give a view of the pharma supply chain risks from the manufacturer's perspective and lens. For those that I haven't had the pleasure to connect with, as Yvonne mentioned, I'm the Global Director of Risk Intelligence and Supply Chain Security. And today I'm happy to cover three particular topics. So if you can just switch to the next slide, please, for me. Fantastic. So I will go through a couple of insights around the real world risks, trends, theft types, and specifically the risk to the pharmaceutical sector. And then just a very broad overview of what we see as future risks to the pharma sector. So I'll start with the counterfeiting risk, which is becoming more and more prevalent. And more recently this year, the threat of counterfeiting has increased. A good example of that in APAC would be Vietnam and the kind of trends that we look to see if there are any elevated risks to counterfeiting or falsified medicines. And historically in Vietnam, it functioned mainly as a transshipment hub for counterfeit goods for the global markets. So you would have counterfeit goods coming into Vietnam and then being distributed to global markets as opposed to being distributed domestically. However, in the last few years, we've noticed an evolution for Vietnam to become a site for domestic counterfeit production. So that's something that we're seeing specifically in the region when it comes to counterfeiting and pharmaceutical products specifically, and not necessarily attributable to GSK. That is more pharma sector specific. More broadly, with regards to counterfeiting and falsified medicines, it can have a significant impact to patients and consumers. And the other challenge that we see is we continue to see organized criminal groups employ sophisticated tactics, techniques, and procedures in order to minimize detection. And one of those TTPs is repackaging genuine drug products with fake medicines. And the other one is around blending counterfeit drugs with authentic ones as well. So all of this designed to avoid detection. And in some cases, some counterfeit pharmaceutical products have been found to contain very dangerous and banned substances, so posing a serious public health risk, let alone reputational risks to the pharmaceutical sector. Moving across to cargo theft and trends and types. So historically across APAC, we have seen challenges in India, Indonesia, China, and Bangladesh. The top theft types is from vehicle in transit, including unsecured parking and en route. So that was all very well presented by Yvonne earlier in the webinar. And another point to highlight and reiterate is even though pharma products are not routinely one of the top commodities stolen, it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. And we can't sit within this false sense of security around pharmaceutical products being one of the lesser commodities stolen. We still need to ensure that we are applying robust security measures. And that's because pharma's high value per incident and impact on patient health underscores the significant risks to not just the industry, as mentioned earlier by Yvonne, but also to patients and consumers. A challenge for us around cargo theft is underreporting remains a concern. As you will see, 188 incidents in the last 3 years. And this is often driven by the business's fears of reputational damage and also potential regulatory scrutiny. And so all of that adds to the challenge for us in identifying trends and patterns, which would allow us to allocate resources to mitigate the risk. And as Dr. Amarpreet underpinned earlier, this is why the TAPA TIS platform is so valuable to us in supply chain, because it highlights the importance of everybody on this call, specifically making a difference by inputting incidents and data that's occurred within their own organizations. And then finally, around cargo theft, it's also worth noting that even though pharmaceutical products is not one of the top commodities, it is rarely advertised in carriers or transporters what products are being moved. So any opportunistic targeting could result in break-in or subsequent theft. And so at the very least, any deviation in temperature, any potential break-in or physical confirmed break-in would render the products within that transporter to be quarantined for quality checks and assurance prior to release, because the integrity of that product has potentially been breached. So this results in potential delays of critical products to patients, but it also has an impact with regards to business activity or operations as well. So overall, the consequence of pharmaceutical theft means that robust security measures are absolutely critical to protecting both industry assets and public health, which is why personally and professionally, I'm very excited around this pharmaceutical standard from TAPA. And then finally, around what do we see as future risks in the pharma industry? I think the biggest risks we see evolving are on two fronts. It's physical and digital. So on the physical side, cargo theft, falsified medicines, supply chain disruptions, they will continue to remain high and remain extant, especially in markets where regulation and infrastructure is catching up with some of the more global standardized regulatory authorities. On the digital side, artificial intelligence can cut both ways. It will enable and support in us predicting theft patterns or detecting anomalies. It could also help with strengthening serialization, so we have greater visibility and transparency over where products are going and reaching to the patient. But criminals are also using AI to create more convincing fraud or deepfake identities, and even using malicious bots as cyber intrusions targeting logistics systems. And so we have to be very conscious of how AI poses a benefit, but also a risk to the supply chain. And I think it's a learning space for everybody, including myself. So overall, where do we see the value in the TAPA pharmaceutical standard from a manufacturing or pharma-specific lens? Well, they're designed to be best practices for protecting the integrity and the security of pharmaceutical products. But we see the benefit going way beyond logistic providers such as warehouses or transporters. The Pharma or FSR will be applied across a wide range of facilities that could handle or does handle and store medicines. So it's important to note that it's not just limited to finished goods into warehouse and distribution. It can also be applied to waste destruction vendors who are often dealing with decommissioned products or even materials that are hazardous or dangerous goods such as vaccines. So applying a standard here ensures that those dangerous goods or those hazardous materials are safeguarded appropriately, are destroyed appropriately to the right level of security, and in short, just raises the bar across the entire product lifestyle when it comes to pharmaceutical, mitigating that reputational risk or unlawful diversion, and not just across the distribution chain. So thank you very much. That's a very broad insight into the three topics that I wanted to cover today, but very much looking forward to hearing the next speakers come on, and also happy to answer any questions at the end where there's a panel Q&A. So thanks very much, Yvonne. Back to you.
Thank you, Aaron, for the very good sharing there. Coming from what you are facing every day, appreciate all the sharing. Next on, I would like to, with Dr. Amarpreet sharing the roadmap of what we have, and of course we have here from Aaron the perspective for what he himself as a representative of the pharma stakeholders in the supply chain faces every day and what he is seeing. So I would like to bring on now to share with all of you about the PFSR standard and new vehicle type, the temperature control trucks that TAPA APAC is launching today. So allow me to go to the next slide, which shares just first on touch base a little bit on how they came about. I think Dr. Amarpreet has already mentioned earlier on. Okay, our standards is not, we didn't start from scratch. Okay, we had a group of our members who joined as a working group to come together to discuss about the requirements from our existing FSR, the FSR which looks at safeguarding facilities for storage cargoes or cargoes in transit. And thereafter, we fine-tune and make sure that it applies specifically to the pharma storage facilities. And of course, with people like Aaron and auditors like Doreen, and also from academic group people, that example like Shamsia, they themselves coming onto the working group, and with a lot of other members from the pharmaceutical and also logistics provider for pharmaceutical goods. They came on, and we had over more than 6 months of discussion on the requirements. We look at other best practices. We also take reference from other standards such as the ISO standards and the GDP standards. And therein, we came on, after so many grueling months of work, we came on to have the proper standards right now for PFSR. And I'd just like to share with all of you here what is the slight difference. So I think next slide will share that in an essence, FSR looks at just any cargo storage, warehousing, or in-transit storage within the supply chain. But for PFSR, very specifically, talks about the handling, the storage and transportation for pharmaceutical products in a pharmaceutical facility. All right, so that is the key difference. Okay, so very industry specific. So next on, just want to also give you a little bit of insight to what you will see the difference between PFSR and FSR. For I think I can see some of the familiar names over here that is with us today. So just want to give you a little bit of a flavor of what you will see in the PFSR standard, which is the next slide. Oh, there's some echo, is it? Okay, I tried to go nearer to the microphone. Okay, so you can see that in just on the left-hand side, I will want to share with you what I mean by increased requirements in the PFSR. So the top section shows that taking reference as an example, 7.2.9 and 7.2.10. These are the requirements in our FSR currently, okay, whereby it talks about external access to the roof, how it needs to be secured, okay, as a minimum requirements. And 7.2.10, it talks about the external access to the roof must be physically locked. And after the discussion with the working group and adopting best practices from some of the pharma members, so we have adjusted the PFR standards for 7.2.9 to that they must be physically locked and covered by CCTV as well as alarmed. And there is also specifics with, not just being the kind of CCTV grades, the kind of visual quality that is required. And also for 7.2.10, you can see that aside from just saying that it must be physically locked, what we got from members' feedback, from the working group feedback, is that the best practice would be physically locked with tamper-proof locks and reinforced locking mechanism. So that is the enhanced requirement for PFSR. And also in the PFSR, there are also other standards requirements that is specifically for pharmaceutical goods, which is example we have here, the controlled drug storage area, how we are expecting to manage it, to treat it, the cytotoxic substances storage area, the dangerous goods storage area, and redressing products area. So that is the uniqueness of the PFSR. So as you can see, for I think some of you, some of the members here who are in the pharma industry, you will see that yes, it's very, very industry specific. So next on, I would just like to share a little bit more about I think this is the TSR. Yeah. So I think some of you, hopefully most of you are familiar with the TSR. So TSR being a global standards, we all know that right now we cover 4 kinds of vehicle trucks audit certification, which is the hard-sided, soft-sided, the rigid vans, and the sea containers. So right now, to make it more suited for pharmaceutical stakeholders, we have come up with Appendix E, a temperature control trucks. And this one is currently only unique for APAC office. So, so that being said, we are going through a revision of the 2026 TSR into the new version in 2026, and we will continue to have that, even though that the revision is going to come. But this temperature control trucks will be part of the APAC TSR audit. Okay, so more information. So we will share the upcoming training and also the audit certification during the training. For anybody who's keen, we will come up with more news and updates on when we are going to have those kind of these training sessions for these two PFSR and TSR temperature control trucks as well. Okay, so giving you a little insight to this already, then right now I would like to get on my next two speakers. So Dr. Shamsia, who is the co-lead for the entire PFSR and the temperature control truck requirements. So he was co-leading the entire working group throughout the many weeks. And of course, we also have Doreen, who is as we already know from Intertech, and she's also one of the member of the working group. So aside from coming up, spending rigorous time coming up with the standards, right? They have also subsequently volunteered to do a pilot testing on one of our members' facilities. So I'll just right now pass the stage to the both of them to share a little bit more about what is the experience of the pilot testing. So Doreen and Dr. Shamsi, over to you.
Right. Thank you very much, Yvonne. I think there's a bit of an overkill. The team actually helped to develop the standard, not me alone. Of course, all of us work together with Doreen and all the team members. But now I think I've already introduced myself to the attendees. And then now let me just touch on a few areas. Now, during this session itself, we'll be presenting the case study on the PFSR, which is the Pharma facility security requirement pilot run that we have conducted. And of course, this case study actually highlights how the PFSR was actually being applied, the challenges faced during implementation, and the benefits of achieving level A certification based on the perspective from a Pharma LSP and an IAB. Now, without further ado, let me just proceed. I think after that, I will hand over to Doreen, who's actually the IAB conducting this PFSR pilot run. Now, during the PFSR pilot run, the organization that was being audited, which I'm actually representing, adopted the PFSR. Reason being is to strengthen the security of facilities. Now, in focus, just to echo as what mentioned by Aaron earlier, right? It is ultimately important and critical that for pharmaceutical facilities to be well guarded, and there are certain areas within the pharmaceutical facilities that is considered high risk. Yeah. Now, we all know that pharmaceutical products are highly valuable and attractive to criminal activity, because we do see some of the pharma products out there which is not coming from the manufacturer. It's either being reproduced, or it's being rebranded or relabeled not according to the requirement. Now, in focus, any weaknesses at the facility itself can condone to theft, cargo crime, or maybe diversion or tampering of the products, which actually disrupts supply chain and, of course, damages trust, be it whether to the client or to the customer, and, of course, to providers. So the organization sees that PFSR actually provided a structured framework, to benchmark facilities against global best practices. Now, as a co-lead of the PFSR standard development, I had the opportunity to actually contribute shaping this requirement. And during the audit, it was observed that based on the standard itself, we are actually strengthening our facility security. Now, applying them during the pilot run itself meant that we could align facilities to a consistent and rigorous level of security. So during the pilot run, our focus is to actually pursue the level A certification, which is the highest tier. And of course, this is to demonstrate, firstly, leadership and resilience within the organization. Achieving the level A through IAB actually provided independent validation, because we just don't want to have the system in place or the standard in place without any validation, right? We need a third party to come in and to confirm that our implementation during the pilot run is basically following the guidelines and the standard. And with the IAB involved, it actually provide strong security proactive approach where we actually improve areas which previously we did not actually really look into much. Yeah. So, but now the standard not only focus on general pharmaceuticals, but of course again, PFSR derived from the FSR also covers sensitive categories such as in pharma, cytotoxic or controlled drugs, or even high value cargo and so on and so forth. I think on my end, based on the organization, this is how we view things. But of course, let me just hand over to Doreen. Doreen, from her perspective on IAB. Doreen? Doreen, you are muted.
Sorry, yeah. Okay, thank you, Samsil. And good afternoon to everyone. I'll just reintroduce myself. My name is Doreen. I'm part of the Government and Trade Services Global Business line of Intertech, divisions that actually focus on government, custom, regulator, as well as trade and supply chain. So before I begin, I would just like to thank TAPA for inviting me to this event and also providing me the opportunity to participate in the launch of the TAPA PFSR. It is definitely a great honor to be able to share our IAB perspective on TAPA PFSR, especially together with Dr. Samsil here. So at Intertech, we are proud to have served as an IAB for TAPA Asia Pacific for more than a decade right now. I would say that over the time, we have seen many organizations and they have all demonstrated their commitment to the supply chain security. However, today, I really want to highlight our client outstanding achievement. To start, the client has actually made a very strategic decisions to actually pursue the PFSR level A certifications. That is, of course, even before the official launch. And as you all know, the PFSR was created especially for the pharmaceutical side. And level A certifications represent the highest and most demanding tiers of requirements. So choosing this path was a clear signal of their leaderships and dedications to safeguarding both their facilities as well as their products. So for this audit, as the rest of the speaker has also shared on the standard itself, we are aware that there's two scope that is actually being expanded to, and that includes the cytotoxic as well as the controlled drugs. And for this type of products, it represents additional challenges, and it also require very specific setup and procedure. Okay, it's not just for safe handling, but it's also for secure storage and also safety management. And given the sensitive nature of these drugs, the requirements were even stricter. So as an IAB, what do? We actually examine their reinforced access control, the highly secure storage facilities, and we also review their procedures. I would say that they have all met the PFSR stringent requirements. And so what I'm saying here is that by embracing these added requirements, our client has actually gone beyond just compliance. So we definitely felt that they have set a new benchmark for security in the pharmaceutical industry. And not only that, I think the most important, we felt that they have sent a very powerful message, and that is protecting products, people, and patient is at the very heart of their missions. Okay, so now with that, I will just hand it over back to Dr. Samsil and for him to share on the implementations journey and experience as well as the challenges. Okay, over to you, Samsil.
I think Dr. Shamsi is facing some technical problem. His camera just suddenly went off and not sure whether he's able to speak at this point. Yeah, I think he's trying to re-log in or something.
I see. Okay. So maybe I go on to share maybe from the IA IAB perspective first in terms of challenges.
Yep.
Yeah. So, because Samsul later will be sharing from his perspective in terms of challenges. For us as an audit body, right? I would like to highlight that we actually got the privilege of observing the challenges that was faced and how it was being addressed in practice. Achieving level A certifications is definitely not a walk in the park. Okay, it requires a company to provide very clear evidence of very consistent and sustainable practices. And for the audit scope, that has been expanded to include cytotoxic as well as controlled drugs. And not only that, we also have the dangerous good as well as the redressing areas. The compliant threshold, I would say, has been raised even higher. So during our assessment, we actually focus into a few key aspects, and out of which is the secure storage area. We really look into whether it's properly designed and is protecting all the sensitive products. We also verified their access control. So it's not just about restrictions, it's also whether it is being carefully monitored at every stage. And lastly, of course, their documentation work in terms of how products are being monitored in their movement. We ensure that we see that their records are complete and accurate. So I'm pleased to say that the client met all these requirements with transparency and openness. And every queries that we raised to them, every observations that was made was actually received very constructively, and the team also resolved it promptly. And finally, I think what really impressed us was the strong involvement of the leadership throughout the whole process. So enhancing a facility security is really not just about technology or procedure. In our opinion, it actually requires both investment and the most important part is a long-term commitment. So in this case, of course, the leadership support in our client was very clear and very unwavering. That support also gave the implementation team the resources and authority they needed to succeed. And of course, ultimately meet this stringent requirement of the PFSR Level A certifications. So I'll say that this combination of openness, technical excellence, as well as the engaged leadership in our client really set a very powerful example of what is truly mean to achieve certification at the very highest level. All right. So Samsu, are you okay? Your
Yeah.
mic and videos. Okay. So now I hand it back to Dr. Samsu. I've actually covered that part on IAB perspective. So I'll now let you share on your part. Thank you.
All right, my sincere apologies. There's some technical problems with my camera. I thought I can see my face, and eventually it couldn't turn on. I have to re-log in again. Now, I think rightly said, Doreen, you actually hit the bullet right on the target. First and foremost, the organization throughout the IAB process or throughout the audit process, we are looking at harmonization. Now, we know that facilities in different market, of course, with varying infrastructure and regulatory environments, those are some of the key areas that we are concerned of. However, with PFSR, it actually gave us a single standard, and it actually aligned all of our requirements, and up to the extent that we are also trying to see whether we can align all the sites to level A requirement. As I mentioned, harmonization, and secondly is integration. Now, almost all organization, or if not in terms of pharma, we need to actually meet regulatory standards, or even some other standards or requirements that is applicable within our organization. Now, meeting the standard, which means that strengthening firstly surveillance, we also refine access controls, and we also formalize incident management procedures within this standardization. Now, for example, if we look at cytotoxic and controlled drugs, there are additional requirements such as dedicated secure storage area, restricted handling protocols, which have to be implemented. And throughout the audit, I think the IAB rigorously look into this area to determine whether we are actually fulfilling those requirements. But not forgetting, as mentioned by Doreen, she actually emphasized a very good and strong point, which is workforce engagement, which leads to leadership. Now, let's try to understand things. Security measures, we are not only looking at whether the staff follow consistently, but we want them to embrace the security measures, embrace how the approach of perception towards security. With that in mind, we also focus on communication and training the employees within the organization to make sure that they understand clearly what are the standard requirements, the procedures that they need to follow through, and then, of course, open up their mind on why security is important, and not forgetting the role in maintaining facility security. Well, those effort itself, by having them actually create opportunities as well. Because now we all understand again that within an organization, we are not supposed to work in silo, right? So organization should work along with other within the organization, functions to functions, they have to work along, because security is not only focused on the security function, but other functions have to contribute, right? So that it'll be much more resilient. So the opportunities open during the implementation of the PFSR is actually more on the cross-functional teams. They actually work more closely together. And with that in mind, security became more integrated with operational processes rather than to treat it as a standalone requirement. I think these are some of the important aspects that we normally focus. But now the other area that I would like to touch on is what are the benefits of achieving the PFSR level A with those additional components. Now, to be clear, achieving level A certification through IAB during the PFSR pilot run itself, including all these additional requirements, actually brought important benefits. Now, firstly, as I mentioned earlier, we are looking at compliance assurance. Yeah, this is something that for us, for example, as an LSP, previously, more importantly is the client would like to know how safe is their product within the facility, right? How are we managing it in terms of security and so on and so forth. The certification itself confirms that facilities are aligned with an internationally recognized standard at the highest level. Now, the second area that I would like to touch on is on stronger facility security. We are looking at access control, surveillance, incident management systems. It became consistent and more robust. Yeah. Again, touching on some specific area, let's say, for example, redressing area for pharma product, or cytotoxic area, or controlled drugs, or high value cargo. Now, based on this, with the PFSR, it actually enhanced further the requirement that we have to actually put in place. And then it also provides greater assurance that these sensitive products are actually well guarded. As I mentioned earlier, the third area that I wanted to touch on is customer trust. Now, as an LSP itself, having independent certification gave our customers confidence that facilities actually met rigorous security expectation. And that actually reinforced the position of certified facilities as reliable partners in supply chain. Finally, we are talking about resilience. Now, facility security itself became embedded into daily operations when we integrate the standards. Yeah, and all this, all the processes and controls are being also set in place alongside the implementation. And with that, note the conclusion of the whole view on PFSR implementation shows that having the standard in place tells the organization is actually sustainable as well as auditable to maintain the highest level of standard. But of course, again, I think Doreen, you want to share your perspective based on this?
Definitely. Thank you, Samsul. So from an IAB, our perspective about achieving the PFSR level A certifications is the fact that you will really highlight on the robustness of your facility security. So this achievement would definitely provide assurance, not only to regulators, but also to your customers, demonstrating that your critical control are all in place, it is well designed, and most importantly, it is also independently verified. So I want to echo on what Dr. Samsil has shared earlier on trust. So in today's complex business dealing, I think trust is really an important aspect. So companies that build their business based on trust stands to gain in the long run. Okay, and so what I'd like to add as well is that from an IAB, we see this achievement not just significant for the company itself, the accomplishment itself actually extend beyond the individual company. Okay, so by attaining PFSR level A certifications, our client has set a new benchmark, showing that the highest level of PFSR certification is definitely achievable. Equally important to highlight is that certification is really not a one-time milestone. You do not just get your cert and just frame it up. You know, it is really part and parcel of a continuous cycle of assessment and improvement. So every stage that you go through, strengthen your system, okay, build up the resilience, and this will ensure your long-term sustainability. So as an IAB, confirming our clients compliant to this level reinforce definitely the value of PFSR. So PFSR to us is not just a standard, okay? In our opinion, it's actually a tool, a very effective tool that you can use to raise your facility security standards across the entire your company through your whole network of sites, as well as it will be a tools that will allow the pharmaceutical supply chain to become more robust. So as what Aaron has shared earlier, Stu, that this is really critical in the pharmaceutical sector. So with that, I strongly encourage any company in these sectors to really consider pursuing the PFSR level A certifications. Okay, so with that, I hand back to Dr. Samsil to do the closing. Samsil, your mic is off, is it?
Okay,
Oh.
yeah. So actually, what I was saying is that you actually read my mind before I could say it out. No, one thing that we look at is continual improvement, not only in the basis of having certified, yeah, but again, looking at it, being certified itself through an IAB was both an achievement and a responsibility as an LSP, right? The focus is that it actually demonstrated that facilities like us could actually meet the highest standard of security, and that there was a commitment to protect products entrusted to us. Yeah, I think that is the most important aspect of being certified and continually improve to enhance security measures and security proactive implementation. I think maybe Doreen, in closing, you would like to touch on some final words.
Yes, yeah. So in closing, I will just once again highlight that certifying our clients to the PFSR level A has truly underscored the robustness and credibility of these new standards. The achievement itself shows that the TAPA certification is not a simple matter of compliance. It is really about building assurance, strengthening resilience, and above all, elevating the security standards across the entire pharmaceutical sector. By attaining this milestone, our client has set a very powerful example, showing that highest level of facility security are not only achievable, it's actually sustainable. So it reflects the leadership, the commitment, and a very forward-looking approach that will benefit all stakeholders, as well as the wider industry alike. So at Intertech, we are proud to play this part as an IAB in helping to verifying the standards. And we also look forward to continue to support our client, TAPA, and the industry in driving security excellence to a newer height. So finally, for any companies who would like to consider PFSR level A certifications, if you have anything that you need to clarify or you want more clarity on how to move forward, feel free to reach out to me, and I believe we can assist you in this journey.